Rev up your engines! Okay, today we have a car they don't make anymore. This is an 06 Toyota Avalon. They made it from 95, stopped selling them in 2022. Did they stop making them because they were crappy cars? No! Basically, Toyota just decided this particular model of a semi-luxurious sedan, they're not into sedans anymore. My wife had a Toyota Cresta that was replaced by this version, the Avalon, and now the Avalons are replaced by the Toyota Crown, which are a very bizarre vehicle. If you take a look at one in the corner there, people argue, what are they? Are they a sedan? Are they a squashed down SUV? I'm voting for squashed down SUV, but that's what they replaced them with. They decided they didn't want the Avalons anymore. Now, he bought it used. It's now got 246,000. He bought it with like 72,000 miles on it. And he paid 8,200 bucks. So for 8,200 bucks, he's got a lot of miles on, right? The engine doesn't burn oil. All right, it's a pretty good running car. The only real problem that the Avalons had was that the early models, they screwed up on the cam seals. So they threw oil all over the place. Strangely enough, I bought my old Celica from a woman who bought one of those Avalons when they first came out. I paid her 300 bucks for my Celica. That was hers. Mind you, it had 200,000 miles on it, but hey, it still ran great. I had to do some body work because it was bashed and all the paint came off because teenagers at a high school shop painted it. You can't paint plastic bumpers without using special paint. They did, and it all came off and looked orange and horrible. But her Avalon, she was cursed. She wanted her car back, kind of jokingly, but she probably did, because within a short period of time, cam seals blew, oil all over the place, the engine self-destructed. The guys at Sterling McCall Toyota in Houston, they knew who I was, and so I just called them up, left a message, and said, oh, my poor customer's got this problem where the engine went because of those cam seals. They said, don't worry, Scotty. They towed it to the Toyota dealer. They put another engine in it. So she got lucky on that one. But the later model ones didn't have any of their problems. Occasionally, you'll find one where the power steering rack is leaking, and you got to put another power steering rack. You might check that out if you're looking at one. They were pretty dependable vehicles. He got hit by a Jeep, and the insurance company said, oh, it was hit there before. It's too rusty. Well, what he did was he went in the trunk and he kicked it out. You can see it's a little on the wavy side, but he knew a guy who did vinyl for signs. He spent about 60 bucks. He put it on, it swelled up, he put some more on and he painted it. And not the perfect job, but it's still going down the road. Now, the crazy thing is under the hood. The struts still work, but this engine has 246,000 miles. Now, it does burn oil. It burns about half a quart every 5,000 miles. You can't complain about that, right? He drove it from Chicago here to Clarksville, Tennessee. He got 31.5 miles a gallon going like 75, 80 miles an hour. You can't complain about that either. Original engine, original transmission. What can you complain about, right? 31.5 miles a gallon, all that age, all that time, what he paid. This car is making him money driving people around. There's no arguing that. Now the AC and everything still works. He did have to replace the radiator and the condenser because this thing was wrecked at one time, and the guy that had it before him, he put cheap parts on it. Now, of course, the Avalon was a relatively luxurious car in its day. Now that this thing is getting old, check it out. The leather seats are still in immaculate shape. And there's nothing wrong with the wood. That's just the sun shining off of it. Even the wood's in excellent shape. Well, check out the trunk. The trunk goes on forever in there. Fancy luxury one, that's the little peephole. So you can reach from the inside and grab inside the trunk. Now, like I say, he runs liveries, American Taxi. He's been driving the heck out of this thing, and it's still going down the road. Now, before I put my little computer on, check it out. This is a Chicago car. Look at those wheels. Those are the original wheels, and they're still in good shape. And hilariously enough, as we look inside, this baby wasn't even made in Japan, it was made in Kentucky. Granted, we had a Toyota Camry station wagon made in Kentucky. It had no problems. We drove the living heck out of that thing. Both of my sons learned how to drive on it. Somehow it survived, and we sold it to a girl who joined the Peace Corps, took it off, and we don't know what happened after that. It's probably still running today, though. Now, we just turned the idiot lights on because we're going to run a scan. It does have a push start system, but it's a Toyota. They're pretty dependable. Here we go. It's starting to check it out. No freeze frame stuff. So let's start her up. Starts right up, and let's do a full module scan. We'll do the OBD mode test. That's got no problems. So let's go to live data. The fuel trim is only 0.8%. Pretty good for a vehicle with this kind of mileage on it. Check it out. I'll turn the lights off so you can see it better. As you can see, it's got 245,000 miles on it. Airflow is good, 3.95 grams a second. Check out the equivalency ratio. 1.0 is perfect. There, it's perfect. Oh, it's off a few thousandths. Now it's off a few thousandths the other way. It's amazing they can run this good, this old. So let's take this baby for a ride. So here we go, backing up. Older car, doesn't have a backup camera. Now the first thing I'm gonna notice is, okay, all these miles, this thing doesn't shake at all. It is the smoothest running old car, you know. Can go forever. Now, hope you gotta put your seatbelt on. It's gonna ring. He didn't put a seatbelt on, he's bad. Smooth. The transmission, of course, it's a real automatic transmission. You can barely feel the thing shift. And even though it's old and the struts are old, it rides quite well. Although he said if he gets a bunch of weight and suitcases in the trunk and bounces it, the rear struts could be replaced if he really wanted to. Now, the wood still looks good. It used to be a lot darker back in the day, especially the top of the steering wheel. Of course, it's going to get the most sun, so it's going to get the lightest. But it's still not cracked. It's still quiet as can be. All this mileage, and the wheel bearings still don't make any noise. As the UPS man comes flying by, oh, here we go. Now, these aren't race cars, but they're not slouchy cars either. They go perfectly fine. They get you where you're going. Even the four-cylinder Camrys, which these are kind of based on, have enough. You step on the gas, smooth downshift. The engine still sounds like a dream. Shifts great. Hey, you can't argue with this thing. Now, as we come to a stop, I expect it to idle fine here. The brakes are really nice and responsive, and voila. The only noise we hear is the turn signal and the AC fan. I think it's a shame they don't make these things anymore. Mind you, the new cars, they get better gas mileage, but this thing's still getting 31.5 miles a gallon with all this mileage. And the most amazing thing, as far as I'm concerned, besides the engine and transmission still being original, is this baby lives in the outskirts of Chicago. It's not rusted out. It's not falling apart. If it had been a Dodge or a Chrysler or a GM, rust would be flying out. The doors would have fallen off. It's just amazing. And it wasn't even made in Japan. It was made in Kentucky. They did a pretty good job building these Kentucky. Now, they don't make them anymore after 2022. But if you find a good used one like this, he bought it with $70,000. Now you add almost another $200,000 on top of it. He's still making his living driving it around. Hey, you can't argue success. They don't make it anymore? Well, that's Toyota's decision. But did they make a mistake when they built these? Only when they made the cams leak oil and some of the power steering racks leaking. That's really the only problems they had. And they fixed that soon after. And since this is later model one, it's not the early 95, they really don't have any problems at all as long as you take care of them like he does. Change the oil filter. That's all you really need to do with them. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Joey says, should I buy this Zephyr? I'm looking at an 06 Lincoln Zephyr 3-liter V6 with 60,000 miles. Any opinions on it? Should I look at it? Should I buy it? The Lincoln Zephyrs were not that popular, but they weren't terrible vehicles. Now, 06. So it's 18 years old, less than 60,000 miles. I wouldn't believe it. If you can have absolute positive proof, maybe it's an older person that's got 60,000 miles. If a guy like me checks it out and says it's a good vehicle, go ahead and buy it. It's not going to go for that much money, right? Let's face it, it's an 18-year-old Ford. Those 3-liter V6s can last a long time. That doesn't have the turbo and all that garbage on it. It could be a decent knock-around car. It just could be. But you want to prove that it's real mileage because people cheat on that all the time. If your inspection in your state, get the copies of the inspection, it has the mileage, make sure the mileage makes sense, that it doesn't have 110 and the next year it's got 40,000 and they just cheated. But if you can prove it's real and the mechanic says it's good, it could be a decent car. Ken Vick says, Scotty, I got a 2015 Nissan Frontier with 129,000 miles. I bought it used when it only had 9,000 miles, but I really wanted a Tacoma. Do you think it's worth trading in the Frontier for a newer low mileage Tacoma? Well, the problem is you won't be able to trade even. The Tacomas go for so much money. Here's the thing. If you really want a Tacoma and you can get something for your Frontier and get a Tacoma, go ahead. But you're going to be paying a lot of money differential. I can tell you right now, because a low mileage Tacoma goes for generally anywhere between $20,000 and $34,000. They're expensive. The Frontiers aren't. So if you want to get rid of the Frontier and get a Tacoma and you can find a deal somewhere, but if you can't find a deal and you're going to pay through the nose, my advice is keep driving the Frontier, because then when it breaks, just buy a new Tacoma, but the Frontier might still last a few more years. What the heck, you have it, why not drive it, because you're going to spend an awful lot of money getting a late model or a brand new Tacoma. They just go for so much money, and if yours still works, hey, and you've had that thing for 100,000 miles and you haven't put any money into it, what the heck, just keep driving it around. That's what I'd say. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.